Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. Tracy here, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this super cute newborn baby mitten. It's got a granny stitch top, and I've made this to go with the granny stitch newborn baby beanie that I've just done a tutorial for. So this is going to match with that. I've used a DK weight yarn, which is not the thickest DK. This is a Peter Pan baby yarn. Excuse me. And if you want to find where you can get all of the materials that I've used today, there are links in the description box below. So while I clear everything away and get started on this, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. I'll come back to you in a second. Okay, so I'm using a 4mm crochet hook and this DK weight, but it's quite a fine one. So I'm going to start with a magic loop, and if you don't like the magic loop, you can chain 2 and work into the first chain, but mine is ever so easy. I leave a nice long tail for sewing it in, but I just make a loop, put in my hook, bring the yarn through and make one chain, and you've done the magic loop. It's as simple as that. Okay, so in this ring I'm going to put a total of 12 UK treble crochets, which are double crochets in the US, but my first stitch will be a stacked, in the UK a stacked DK, in the US a stacked single. And by inserting your hook into the ring and pulling up a loop, you can then yarn over and pull through both of those. Now in this vertical post here, I just insert my, oops daisy, take the hook with you. Okay, so I insert my hook into this vertical post here, yarn over and pull up a loop, 2 on my hook again, yarn over and pull through both. So that brings me up to the level of my UK treble, and it's fatter than a 2 chain. But if you'd rather do the chain, I'd understand. So as well as this one, I'm going to put 11 into this ring, and they are just very simple UK treble, US double crochets. And I'm going to pause the video while I do this, because if I'm counting, I'm sure I shall put you off, and it's boring to watch me just keep doing this. So I'll pause it and I'll catch up with you once I've done my very last stitch. That means 11 of these plus that one at the beginning will be 12. Okay, so I finished my last one, and now I'm just going to pull on this a little bit. It doesn't have to be completely closed at this stage, just bring it together. Now the top 2 loops are my top of my stitch, so I'm going to pop my hook in and do a slip stitch to join. Okay, now I can pull it a little bit tighter if I want to. Okay, now I'm going to do a half treble, which is a UK term, and a half double in the US. And to do that, I'm going to do 1 chain and pull it right low, cinch it right down, because I don't want that to be deceived into thinking that's a stitch. So I don't want this loop on the hook to be tight, but I'm going to do 2 UK treble, UK half trebles, or US half doubles. I think I've split my yarn there. I'll start again. I'm going to go back. I don't like it when it splits. Okay, so here we go. It's a bit difficult now, I've split it. Never mind. Okay, do my chain, pull it right down, and here we go. That's better. This yarn doesn't split too often, but I'm not used to using these crochet hooks. I usually use a tulip, but I wanted to use this one as it was nice and handy. So I'm going to do 2 in every single stitch all the way around, and I'm going to pause it again because that's boring to watch. 2 in every single one. So at the end of this you will have 24. I will catch up with you once I get back to the start again. Okay, so I'm pulling my center a bit tighter because it was a little loose, and I've done my 24, and this here is the top of my stitch, so I'm going to just slip stitch into that one and close my ring. So that's as far as we're going to go with increasing. So I'm going to, sorry about that, bashing my equipment. I'm just going to do one in each stitch all the way around in this next round. So no more increase, just one UK half treble, US half double in every single one of our stitches all the way around. So again, we will have 24 stitches at the end of this round. Again, that would be boring to watch me, and so I'm going to pause the video and I will catch up with you when I get back to the start again. Right now, so I've got all the way around and you can see it's starting to cup, which is exactly what we want it to do, because we've done the top part here. We're now starting on this part around here. And although it does go rounded, it's not, there is not any more increasing or shaping. So I'm just going to slip stitch into my first one and close my ring. And I'm going to pop that into the right way because that's the wrong side. Okay, so I'm going to chain one, pull it right low, and I'm going to carry on doing one in each stitch all the way around. And this is the same now for the next. Let's see, how many have we got? 1, 2, 3. This is our fourth round. We want a total of, let's have a count. I think it's 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We want a total of 9 rounds altogether from this start. So I'm going to carry on now and make my 9 rounds, and they're all the same. So I won't come back to you in the meantime. I'll just carry on now until I've done my 9, and I'll pause the video and come back to you once you've done that. Just a little note about the yarn. This Peter Pan is extremely, really willowy soft baby yarn, and although this is quite a tight pattern, it still feels lovely and soft. You could make this bigger or smaller. If you wanted to make it smaller, you could use a 4-ply if you were making it for a preemie baby, or if you wanted to make it bigger, likewise you could up the hook size to a 4.5 and use a DK, or you could even go up a little bit more and use a 4-way Aran yarn and then a 5mm crochet hook or more. So I'm going to pause it then after that little note on sizing, and I'll catch up with you at the end of my 9 rounds. Okay, so I've got my 9 rounds and this is what it's looking like. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make this part here where the tie goes. Now, when it comes to the tie, you can make another round of UK half trebles, US half doubles, and weave in and out of another row. So say the 10th row, and you could weave your tie in and out. But if you wanted to maybe not have a crocheted tie or something a little bigger like a ribbon, that really would be difficult to get in. Plus, you know, some people like to have a different kind of, you know, rather than have the same stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cinch my chain down again, and I'm going to do my first stitch in there exactly the same, a UK half treble or a half double US, and I'm going to chain one, I'm going to skip one and do one in the next stitch, chain one, skip one and do one in the next stitch. Skip one. I'm going to do that all the way around until I get back to the start again. Nice and simple. If you if you didn't want to do this, you could also do a UK treble, which is a double crochet in the US, a little bit of a taller stitch, but make one in each. That would be easier to weave your tie or ribbon through if you didn't want to have these spaces. It's really just a personal preference thing. So I might as well stay with you because I'm not far from the, well, I suppose I'm halfway around. In case it's a little boring, then I will pause it and I'll catch up with you when I get back to the beginning again. Okay, so now I'm going to just chain one and slip stitch into my first stitch. It's going to be hard to get into. Looks a little tight. Come on, get in. There we are. Okay. So this is now my granny stitch round. Okay, so the first one, I'm just going to insert my hook where I've just slip stitched into, and I'm going to do the same stack stitch that I did at the beginning, or you can chain two if you really don't want to do this. And then in the same stitch I'm going to make another, and then I'm going to skip two, but I'm going to skip this one and this one. So in the post I'm going to make 3 stitches. Didn't really want to go in the post, did it? I'm in. I did try to see if how it would look if I just went into every single space, every single gap, and it doesn't look right at all. It's just too bunched up. Okay, so in the post, skip 1, skip 2, and in the third one I'm going to make 3. This is where I wish I hadn't made this row quite so tight. Now, I did toy with the idea of doing a whole row of UK double crochet, which are singles in the US, which would make this easier, but I didn't want to make these mittens too tall. Skip 1 in the next post. So I'm going to do that all the way around. This is a fiddly round. It's only because you're trying to get into every one of those stitches all the way around. So I'm going to pause it then. This is how it's looking. And you want those nice spaces between. If you're just going into these, there are no spaces, it doesn't look the same at all. Okay, so I'm going to pause it then and I'm going to carry on. And when I get back to the start, I will catch up with you then. Okay, so I've made it all the way around, and I only did 2 in my first stitch because I found 3 made it a little out of shape. So I'm going to finish it off with my last one. It does look a little unusual at the minute, but then you slip stitch into your first stitch and it just looks like all the rest. So I finished it off with this little peaked top because I just felt like it did look a bit unfinished. So how I've done this is ever so simple. I just chain 2 and then I slip stitch into my first chain. I normally do a picot like this, but I will do 3 chain, but this I just wanted a small one. So now I have my 2 loops on the hook. I just pull it through both, skip 1 and slip stitch, chain 2, slip stitch into my first chain, yarn over and pull through both, skip 1 and do a slip stitch. That makes this nice little peak. Didn't really want it to be a large one. Skip 1 and slip stitch. So I'm going to do that all the way around. Again, I'll pause it and I'll catch up with you when we get back to the start. Okay, so I've gone all the way around and I've got my last one to do, so I'm just going to slip stitch into that last stitch and I'm going to do 1 chain, pull it very low, when I call that cinching it down, leave a nice big tail, and I'm going to pull that out, and I want to pull this down so it looks identical. I'm going to sew it in, but I want to pop it in there for now, and this is how it looks. It looks like a little fish, but you've got your little tiny peaks as well as the granny stitch. So Now I'm going to make the tie. Just a little word, if you want to make the set, then I will put a link at the end. When the videos pop in at the end, there'll be a link to this, and there'll be one in the description box, as well as the preemie beanie that I've made. Okay, so to do that tie, this was a chain of 50, and I feel like it is a little bit short. So you can always maybe just do 55, but we're going to do them not loose, but not ridiculously tight either, just normal, just a chain. I'm going to do 55 because I'm going to make the other tie bigger. I'm going to make another one. I've just lost count. So I'm going to pause it then, and I will catch up with you once I've done my 55 chain. Okay, so now I'm just going to cut my yarn with a nice long tail and pull that through, and I'm going to pull it very, very tight. The other end, I'm going to pull it very tight, and then I'm just going to make sure that's as tight as it can be, and then I'm just going to snip it off. Now, if you're worried about these coming loose ever, then if you've got the same yarn, you can just make new ones. So before I put this in, I've left that long tail specifically for a reason. I'll show you that in a moment. We're going to sew these ends in. So we're going to turn it inside out, and I've got my darning needles here. I'm going to use this one because it is kind of a small yarn, and now I didn't leave as big a tail as I normally would here because I was playing a little bit of yarn chicken with this as I've been making other things like hats and stuff like that. So with it pulled as tight as I need it to be, I'm going to make a loop into the last stitch, and what I want to do is when that is very short, that loop, I'm going to go back on itself, make sure that I don't pull that out, and then just pull it tight. Now that is totally got a knot and not coming undone. All I need to do then is to push this. Well, actually that's got a knot that side, so it's harder to get in, but just go back through this round of stitching. Maybe I should have used the even thinner needle, but if I had, I would never have threaded it on camera. I do have a problem when it comes to threading them on camera. They don't like me to thread them. They like to watch me struggle. So that's it, it's never coming out. Just snip it off, pull it to one side, and the other one is the very last one. The good thing about these, unless you want to make one that's stripy and change colour, then you have very few ends to sew in. Okay, so now I'm going to attach this one, and as I said before, this one needs to kind of aim downwards, so that's what we want to do. We want to bury this tail in our stitching. We just go down through here, pull it down, so now it's exactly the same as the others, and we can start trying to find a nice row of stitches to bury it in. I'm going to go down a little bit more until I get to this row here, and then I can go along that row of stitching nice and easy. I found it easier to bury it in a row of consistent stitches. Okay, so now that's in that way, I'm going to go back the other way. I'm going to, you see this stitch here, I'm going to break into that stitch so it doesn't pull back through on itself. And you can go back and forth a couple of times if you want, but I think that's enough. And I'm just going to cut that off. And put it in the right way. There we are. So we've kind of got our mitten. Now I'm going to thread, this is why I left a long tail. I'm going to thread this onto my darning needle because it's easier than trying to poke it through. Now it does look nicer if you use a ribbon, but if you do use a ribbon, then you will need to maybe wash it at like the mittens at sometimes you have to take it out. So I'm going to find my center, and I'm going to go into the hole to this side of it, so it's my left as I'm looking at it. and I'm going to weave this in and out and pull it through. I'm going to leave a bit of a tail there, maybe a little bit less, and that one's a little fatter because it's our first one. Going to get all the way to the other side, and then I'm going to come out just to the other side of that post. Okay, so now I want to pull this as tight as it can be, and I'm just going to cut it off. I've never had one of these come undone, but you never know, that there could be an occasion when that happens. So I want my tail to be equal both sides, and now all I need to do is give it a little tie up into a bow. So that's a much better length of the tie than the other one. So I'm going to pull this one out and redo it. So it's not a lot of difference, but it's just that little bit extra. So there we go. One little pair of Granny Top baby mittens. Okay, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. As I said before, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. Tracy here, and I'm going to show you how to make this baby beanie. So if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Today I'm going to show you this newborn one. I have a few others. I've got a preemie beanie that I'm going to be doing a separate tutorial for, and this one is more of a 3 to 9 months in size as well. So I'm going to do all of those, but today I'm going to concentrate on this newborn. So say 0 to 3 months. It's not a huge hat. I didn't want it to be big. I wanted it to fit newborn size, and it is a kind of granny stitch. Nice and simple. So I've made this with a very thin DK weight yarn and a 4mm crochet hook for this one. So if you just bear with me a second, I'm going to clear the stuff out the way and get ready to start the tutorial. You'll also need a darning needle, although there are only 2 ends, and some scissors. And I'm going to clear this away, and when I get back I'll be ready to start with you. Okay, so this hat I made with this variegated yarn, and I'm going to make this one out of a nice plain colour so it's much easier for you to see. And to start this, I'm going to do a magic loop. Now if you don't know how to do the magic loop, my one is very, very easy. So I'll just stopping my yarn from spinning around like a lunatic. I've got a wool genie. So you need to make a nice long tail, because when you want to sew that in, you want to make sure you've got enough to do that. Now that hat took, that was a 50-gram ball, and I didn't even use half of it. Sorry, I was going to show you how to do it. So I make a loop, just a simple loop, insert my hook and bring the yarn through. Helps to bring the yarn through when you're sewing it though. And there you've got it. Simple. I'll show you one more time. You make a loop, and there you are, and you insert your hook, bring the yarn through and do 1 chain, and we're done. Okay, so into my loop I'm going to do 12 UK treble crochets, which are double crochets in the US. And to start with, I'm going to do my first one as a stacking stitch. So it's a stacked double crochet or a stacked single crochet in the US. So you just insert your hook, pull up your loop, yarn over and pull through 2 of those loops, and then in this vertical stitch at the side there, just that one, you push your hook in and you yarn over and pull up your loop. So you've got 2 on your hook again, yarn over and pull through both of those, and it's my first stitch. So I prefer to do that than 2 chain. If you don't get on with the magic loop, then if you just do 2 chain and work into the first one, it really does work out just the same. So in this ring I want 12 UK treble crochets or US doubles. So just bear with me a second because I kept hitting my equipment and that's annoying. So I've just moved it a little bit. So this will count as my first one, obviously, so I just want 12. Now I'm just not going to, this is a 4mm hook, so they're not going to be huge stitches. This yarn that I'm using is Peter Pan's DK. So again, it's about the same thickness as the one I was using, this yarn here. Okay, so I'm going to do 12. I'm going to pause the video and I'll come back to you once I've done my last, because it's difficult when you're trying to count if someone else is doing that at the same time. Okay, I think I've got my 12. So I'm going to pull this just a little bit tighter. And I'm going to just check. So you count the V's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And there it is. That's my number 12. So I have. So I'm going to slip stitch into this first stitch. Now, because I've done the stack, it's easy. Well, I say it's easy, but I made it a little bit tight. It's easy to get into the 2 loops. You've got 2 loops to go into exactly the same as any other stitch, so not a tight chain. Okay, so now you can pull your ring closed, and we'll secure that later. It will work its way undone, but never mind. So now we are going to do an increase in every single stitch. So this is the one that I've just slip stitched into, and I'm going to do my stack yet again in the same stitch. And you think I'd have learnt by now not to keep doing it too tight, wouldn't you? Never mind. But I've gone into that same stitch, and I'm going to pull up my first loop, yarn over, pull through both of those, again into this vertical one here, yarn over and pull it through, yarn over and pull through both of those. So now I've got my first stitch, and I'm going to do another one in the same place, and I'm going to do 2 in every single stitch around. UK treble, US double crochets. Nice and simple. This kind of tutorial does assume that you know how to make all of the stitches. If not, I do have an absolute beginner's course with all of the stitches that you might need. Okay, so once again, it'll be a bit boring watching me do 2 in every single stitch. So I'm going to pause the video, and I will catch up with you when I get to my very last one, and I will have a total of 24 stitches. Okay, so I'm all the way back. I'm going to slip stitch into my first stitch again, go through those 2 loops of my first one. I don't normally struggle, it's just that I've got a camera between, so it's not that easy. Okay, so now I'm going to do another stack to get me up to the right height. I don't do the two chains anymore. They don't look like a stitch, and it's so much nicer. Okay, so now I'm going to increase every other stitch. So each time we go round at the moment, we are increasing by 12. Obviously that was 12, 1 in each makes it 24. So we're going to do 2 in the next one. So our increase in the next stitch. And then we're going to do a single one. And then our next stitch will be an increase. And we're going to do that all the way around. So because we began with a single one, our last stitch will be an increase. So I'm going to pause it again, and I'll catch up with you when I get back to my very last stitch, which will be my increase. Okay, so we've made it all the way round, and now we've got our 36 stitches. I'm just going to slip stitch into my stitch to form the circle. Now I'm going to do another stack in this one again to get me up to the correct height. And because we had an increase in our second stitch, this time I'm going to increase in my first stitch. The reason I do that is because it stops it from taking on the shape of kind of a hexagon with having the increases in the same spot as much as possible. So now we're going to do 2 singles and an increase, 2 singles and an increase, go all the way around, and when I get back to this here, these 2 stitches will be singles because we started with an increase, and we will have 48 stitches. So I'm going to pause it then, and I'll catch up with you when we get back to the start again. Okay, so I've made it all the way around. I've got my 48 stitches, and this across will now kind of measure almost 4 inches. So that's about right for this newborn. I didn't really want it to be too big. I wanted it to fit an absolute newborn if I can. So now we're going to start our pattern. So this has got a 2-row repeat, and it's ever so simple. So first of all, the very first thing we're going to do is our stack stitch to get up to the right height. Now I'm going to skip 2 stitches, and in this one here I'm going to put 3 UK treble US doubles, the same as any granny stitch. If you wanted this slightly larger, you can just use a little yarn that's a little bit thicker. This is quite a thin DK yarn, or you could up the hook size if you wanted it for a larger newborn. But so what we're going to do now is skip 2 and 3 in the next one, and we're going to do that all the way around. Skip 2, 3 in the next one. Skip 2 and then 3. Okay, so I'm going to carry on doing that all the way around until I get to this last part, and I will come back then. I'm going to pause the video, come back and show you what to do when we get back to here. Okay, so I'm all the way around and it's cupping, which I want it to do, so that's perfectly normal. Okay, and we are now back at our first 1 stitch. Now it looks a little odd in this round. It gets easier in subsequent rounds. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so I can show you. So there is the stitch that this has come out of. We're going to do 2 in there. And now we're going to slip stitch to the top of our first stitch. So it looks identical. It's going to be seamless. Okay, so now we're going to do a stack, but we're going to do it into this gap. This is our second row, so of our repeat. Okay, but in there we're going to put 3 stitches, so 2 UK trebles. I hope I didn't go off camera being all zoomed in like this. I didn't remember that I was zoomed. I'm going to unzoom and do this again just in case. Okay, we're back to where we were, and what we're going to do is we're going to, into this gap, we're going to make our stack. I may not have gone off camera, but I just can't take that chance. Okay, so we're going to put 2 stitches with that stack into this first space. Now we're going to go in between, just as like a normal granny, in between each segment, shell, whatever you want to call it. Sorry about that. My equipment failed. So, yeah, and in between each one, we are going to put 3 UK treble US double crochets all the way around. So, I'm going to pause the video, and I will catch up with you again once I get back to our very first stitch. Okay, so I'm all the way around, and now I'm just going to slip stitch into, not slip stitch, sorry, I'm going to go into my first stitch, pull up a loop, and I'm going to yarn over and pull through both of those. And the reason for that is I want to be able to go into this gap to do a repeat of this row. So I'm going to go back in, pull up a loop and do my stack stitch, but I'm only going to do one. So this is a repeat of this row where I do my first one only, and then in the next one I'm going to do my 3. This is how we make it so it's seam free, by alternating these 2 rows. And we can't tell at all where our join is. Okay, so I'm going to go all the way around then, and I'll catch up with you and we'll finish off this one here when we get all the way around. Okay, so I'm back and there's my first one. I'm going to finish off with my next 2 in the same space. It's much easier when you're going into a granny to do this, and I'm going to slip stitch into the top of my first stitch. You think I'd have learnt by now not to make them too tight. It will go in. There we are. Okay, so then we're going to, in this one here, make our stack, and that's our repeat. So this time around, as we've gone into our granny hole, we're going to make 3 stitches. So that's what the 2 row repeat, alternating between making the 1 stitch, making the 3. So we want to go with a total of 6 granny rounds. So I'm going to pause the video, and this one is my 4th, so I shall catch up with you once I've finished my 6 rounds altogether of granny stitches. Okay, so now I have 6 rounds of granny stitch. I'm going to measure it across. So as this is a really small newborn, that's about right, the measurement to kind of, so all the way around it's about 12 inches. Or if you go into the biggest part of the head, that would be about 13 inches. That's right. So I know all newborns come in various shapes and sizes, but this one is a nice tiny one. Okay, so now I'm going to slip stitch into my first stitch, and we're going to do 2 rounds of half treble in the UK, which is half double in the US. So I'm going to do a chain, cinch it right down. I don't want it to stick up, and I'm just going to do my very first one. This loop doesn't have to be tight, nice and not loose but free, and I'm just going to go all the way around, and this will pull that in just a little bit, but not so that it's tight. It will just pull all these stitches together a little bit. It will still have stretch and give, but I'm going to do that all the way around and every single stitch. So I'm going to pause it, and I will catch up with you when I get back to the beginning again. Okay, so I'm all the way around, and I'm going to slip stitch into my first one, going into the 2 loops. For some reason I'm having trouble doing that on camera today. Don't normally. Okay, so again I'm going to chain 1, cinch it right down. Don't want it to count in any way. Not a tight loop, and I'm still struggling to get even though I'm not doing a tight loop. And I'm going to do another one in each stitch all the way around, just as before. So again, I shall pause it and meet up with you when I get back to the start, and we'll take a look at it at that point. I'm all the way around again, so I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to slip stitch, but just for a moment I'm going to look at this. So that's pulled in quite nicely at the bottom there. It's kind of tapering in. I don't feel like we need one more round, because when I measure this I want it to be about 4.5, well, roughly 4.5 inches. Let's get that in the, that's not quite quite right. There we go. So this is from the start, and if I did another one, it would just be over the 4.5 inches. It's just slightly under. We're here, so it is kind of up to you whether you look at it and you think that could do with another one or not, and it might be a good idea to try it on the baby, and then you get a rough idea as to whether you need one more row of half trebles, half doubles or not. But I'm not going to do one now. I'm going to leave that. So what I'm going to do now is, you could slip stitch into that and break off your yarn, but I'm going to do it in the invisible way. So I'm going to pull my yarn through, so it's just pulled through the stitch, and I'm going to grab my darning needle and going to do it so that the end, the actual row, looks identical all the way along. I don't know how people manage to do this. That wizardry, I don't know. I always struggle. Thank goodness for thumbnails. That's the only way I get it in. Okay, so this here is the top of my first stitch. That's just the cinch down chain. This is the top, so I'm going to go front to back through both loops with my needle. And then I'm going to bring it back, and I'm going to go front to back through the back one only, just this one here. Oh, I actually managed to loop it. Trying to get it out of the way for you, and I looped it. So now you can see that is identical, but you need to hold it tight in that position while you secure it at the back. So I'm going to just secure it by making a loop, and then I'm going to go back through that. I'm going to pull it tight. So now that looks exactly the same. And now all I need to do is bury this tail along my row of stitches, if I can get it in, that is. There we are. You know, when you do these things not on camera, they go really, really well. And when you're going to show somebody, they go really, really bad. Maybe it's just me. I think it might just be me. Okay, so I'm going to go a little bit back the other way and cut that off. And then don't forget, inside we have our magic loop. We need to secure that, otherwise it will start unraveling. I always feel jealous of those people that just seem to get this in. It's just, I have a fatter one, but this is quite thin yarn and quite a delicate thing, so I didn't really want a big fat needle. So I'm going to pull that as tight as I can, and I'm just going to go back through the last couple, or just even one, it doesn't really matter. Just get as much of that as I can. Make that loop, go back through it the other way and pull it tight, and it becomes a knot. You can do that again if you want to, just to make it extra secure. Make that loop. Ooh, before it disappears, we'll go back through the loop, pull it tight. Now it's definitely a knot to be, not to be reckoned with, not to be, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make a joke. And then we're just going to bury this in that center, and it shall never see the light of day again. You can just go through as many times as you want to, and then we'll snip it off carefully, turn it in the right way, and we've got a perfect little granny beanie. And you can't see the seam at all. So that's done. So yeah, I'm going to do some more. I'm going to do a preemie one. I'm going to do a next couple of sizes, remembering that this is newborn, so I'm going to do 0 to 3 months and so on. So thank you for watching. Sorry my equipment failed halfway through. Hope it isn't too bad. I'll watch it back, and if it is, I will have to edit that out somehow. So thanks for watching. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye for now. Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. Tracy here, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this really cute little preemie baby granny hat, and it is absolutely adorable. I know a lot of people like to make preemie hats for hospitals and donate them. So this one, I'm going to get my measure, and it will be around about 3.5 inches long exactly, and 10-ish inches unstretched wide. Okay, I'm using a 3.5mm crochet hook, and this yarn that I'm using is a 4-ply weight, a super soft 4-ply. You can use any. I'm just using a ball that I have in my stash. Now, a 4-ply is a sport weight across the pond, and this I will start with a magic loop. Now, if you don't like the magic loop, you can do 2 chain and work in the first one, as long as you work over the tail. So I'm going to leave a nice long tail because I want to make sure that's really secure once I finish. Now, my magic loop is so easy, you can definitely do it. You just make a loop. That's all you do. Make a loop, insert your hook, pull the yarn through that, and make 1 chain, and you are done. Simple as that. I'll show you one more time. Make a loop, put the hook in, bring the yarn through, and make 1 chain, and you're done. Simple as that. So into this ring, working over the chain, we're going to put 12 UK treble crochets, which is a double crochet in the US. And I'm going to show you the very first stitch is going to be a stacked UK double or a stacked US single. So we insert our hook into the ring, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through both of those. Now in this vertical post here, just this one at the side, we're going to insert, I made it a bit tight, insert our hook, pull up a loop, we've got 2 on our hook again, yarn over and pull through both of those. Now that's our first stitch, and this here will be the top of it, just like a normal stitch. It's so much nicer than trying to get into a couple of chain, which sometimes are very tight. Now into this ring I'm going to put 11 UK trebles or US double crochets into there, so that will be a total of 12 with my first stacked stitch. And I'm going to pause the video and do these stitches and catch up with you when I get back to the start, because I lose count when I'm talking, and if I'm counting it will put you off. So make sure that you do 12 including your first stitch, working over this tail, and I'll catch up with you when I get back to the start again. Okay, so I've finished all of my stitches. I'm just going to pull this a little tighter, not all the way at first, but I'm going to slip stitch into this very first stitch, and you can see it has the lovely 2 loops to go into like any other stitch. So I'm going to slip stitch into there, and then I'm going to pull that completely closed. I'm not going to secure it yet, and it will work its way looser, but it will keep doing that until we've secured it at the end. Okay, so my beginning of every single round will be my stack, and in this particular round I'm going to increase into every stitch. So I'm going to reinsert my hook where I've just slip stitched, pull up my loop, yarn over and pull through both of those in this vertical post, make my second UK double or US single. There we go. Now I'm going to do 1 more stitch into that same space, and I'm going to do 2 in every single stitch all the way around. So we started with 12, and at the end of this round we will have 24 stitches. So that's nice and easy, just increasing in every single one. Okay, that's a bit boring to watch, so I'm going to pause the video and I will catch up with you once again when I get back to the start. Okay, so I'm all the way back, And again, there's my first stitch. I'm just going to go into those 2 loops and join it with a slip stitch. And this is how it's looking. So every single round at the moment, we are going to increase by another 12 stitches. So I'm going to do my stack again in the same stitch that I've just slip stitched into. And I'm going to do an increase in this first stitch. And I'm going to do a single stitch in the next, and then an increase. And in the next one, a single. And I'm going to repeat that all the way around. 2 in the next, and 1 in the next. So I'm going to do that all the way around. I'm going to pause the video and I'll catch up with you when I get back to my last stitch. That should be a single one, because we started with an increase. We will finish with a single stitch. Okay, so I'm all the way back again. I'm just going to join it with my slip stitch into my first stitch. Now this is my last increase round, and in this particular round again we're going to increase by 12. In my first stitch I'm going to just put my stack, just the 1 stitch, because I started with an increase in the previous round. I'm going to start with a single, but this time I'm going to put 2 singles, so 2 stitches on their own, and then an increase. Two on their own, and then my increase. I'm going to do that all the way around. 1, 1, then 2. I'm going to go all the way around, catch up with you when I get back here. Now, because I started with a stitch all on its own, the last one will be an increase. And at the end of that, I should have a total of 48 stitches. And that'll be my last increase, as I said. So I'm going to pause it now and I'll catch up with you when I get back to the start again. Okay, so I'm all the way around again. Going to slip stitch into my first one. For some reason having a trouble getting in. It was nice and big as well. Okay, so now I'm going to start my pattern, which is 2 row repeat of a granny stitch. So 2 row repeat because I'm going to make this seam free, and we don't want any slip stitching or reversing, like turning our work or anything. So I'm going to do my very first stitch, which will be my stack. Every round will start with that. Well, every treble or US double round. Now I'm going to skip 2 stitches, and in this third one, so that's the one I'm in, I'm skipping that one and that one, I'm going into the third one, and I'm going to put 3 UK treble or US double crochets all in the same space, like a traditional granny stitch. And I'm going to skip 2, 1, 2, and in this one I'm going to put 3. I'm skipping 2, and in the third one another 3. So I'm going to repeat this all the way around until I get back to my beginning. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video, and I just want you to keep going on, skipping 2, and in the third one make your 3, and then stop once you get back to this part here. Okay, so I'm all the way back, and now I'm going to finish off. I've got 2 stitches remaining. I'm going to finish off my 3 stitches in there. So in exactly the same place as this stitch, I'm going to come across and put 2 more. It will look strange at first, but it will soon sort out, don't worry. So there's my second. Now I'm going to find the top of my first stitch, and I'm going to slip stitch into there. So there we are. We have 16, 3, lots of 3, so 16 3 segments. That's my first row. My second row is slightly different, and as I said, it's a 2-row repeat. And to keep it seamless, now we're going to work in this space here. So we're going to do our stack as our first stitch, and as we're in the actual space, we're going to do 3. So 2 more in that same space. And then we're going to go in between our shells of 3 and make our 3s all the way around. Simple as that. So I'm going to pause the video again because it must be boring watching me just carrying on. And I will catch up with you once again when I've gone all the way around and we get back to this part here, and I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so I'm back where I started. Now I'm going to join this in a different way. Instead of a slip stitch, I'm still going to go in to the 2 loops of that stitch and pull up my loop, but I'm going to yarn over and pull through both of those. So I've got slightly wider than a slip stitch. Okay, and now I'm going to go into this same stitch, pull up my loop and do my stack exactly the same as before. But just like the first round where we just had the 1, I'm going to leave that there, and I'm going to do my next stitches in this one. I'm going to put 3. It's easier on these rounds to do that 1 stitch on its own and to catch up with it and put 2 in there than it is the first round. The first round was harder because you're going into just this stitch, but it becomes a lot easier in subsequent rounds. So those are our 2-row repeats where we start off with our 3 in this one, and then we start off with 1 in this one here. And that is the way that we keep this seam free. Okay, so once again, I'm going to pause the video, carry on putting my my 3s into my spaces, and I'll catch up with you when I get back and we'll finish off this segment. Okay, so I'm back at the start again, and it's easier now. We're working into these spaces to put our 2 stitches at the side of that one. Oh, I've gone very dry, excuse me. I'm going to slip stitch to my first stitch. There we are. So now we have 3 rows, and we want a total of 5 rows of granny. So we'll end on this, we'll do 2 more rows. We'll end on the same row that we've just done. Okay, so I'm going to pause it then, and I shall come back to you once I have another 2 rows of granny stitch completed. Okay, so I am now all the way round and I've joined with my slip stitch. I'm going to do 1 chain. I'm going to cinch it right down, and that is my way of doing the stack half treble or half double in the US. So I'm going to yarn over, go into that first same stitch and complete my first stitch, and I'm going to do 1 in every single stitch all the way around. Now this will have an effect of pulling that a little tighter, but it will still be stretchy, and that's kind of what you want really. You don't want it to sort of splay outwards. It does have the effect of bringing it back kind of like a brim. Okay, so I'm going to go in each one all the way around, nice and simple, and I will pause the video then, because that again is boring to watch, and I will catch up with you once I get back to my very first stitch. Okay, I'm all the way around. I'm going to now slip stitch into my very first stitch and going to do the same thing again, 1 chain and cinch it right down, and a half treble, which is a half double in the US, in the same stitch. Now incidentally, all of the materials that I've used in this I'll put a link in the description box. So if you wanted to get this yarn or any of these kind of things I've used, I will show you where you can get hold of those. Okay, so again, I'm going to go all the way around and catch up with you once I get back to the start again. Okay, so I'm all the way around my second row. All I need to do now is I'm going to do the invisible join. So I've cut my yarn. That is my first tail. This is my only other tail. So how I do that is now I'm going to pull this loop completely out. I'm going to take my darning needle, can you choose one, and struggle on camera to threadle it, because I always do. And yeah, today is no exception. Yes, today is no exception. I could pause it, but I just somehow feel that you might enjoy watching me fiddle around and show that you're not the only one. Okay, so how do we do, excuse me, the invisible join? So this is my very first stitch, and those are the 2 loops there. So I'm going to go front to back through those 2 loops and take my yarn with it. There we go. Now we want this stitch to look the same size as all the others. So with the yarn in the front, I'm going to go, it gets in the way, does like to, I'll hold on to it. I'm going to go into my last stitch, but the back loop only, front to back. And then just give it a tug to make it the same size as the others. Now you need to hold on to that somehow, maybe the other way, like this. And while I'm holding it, I'm going to secure it by making a stitch there. I'm going to do one before I do anything else. And then I'm going to go make another loop. And when it's small, if you do it when it's too big, sometimes it goes a little wrong. I'm going to go back through that and then pull it tight. So now that is secured, and it's a similar size to all the others. You don't really want it too loose, because you do get a gap here if you do. Now all you have to do is just making sure it's the same tension as all the rest, not too tight. And now we need to bury our tail in the line of stitches, which is so much easier when you're not doing it on camera, I can assure you. Okay, here we are. Go through a couple more. And then I will just come back on myself the other way, but I always make sure I try to catch a little bit of that first stitch, sort of break the stitch a little bit so that it doesn't just come all the way back through again. And then I just give that a little tug. It's now buried. I get my scissors and give that a snip. Get rid of that end. Now there's another one. Of course, there's that one that started it all. Nice big tail, and of course we want to pull it tight. And again, we want to struggle and threadle this needle. I see people, they do something like this. They go like that, and then they just come away and it goes straight. But look what happens when I do that. It just doesn't work for me. So yeah, I just twist it, make it skinny, and try my best to poke it through. I do have a needle that has a larger eye, but this is very thin yarn. It's nice and delicate. I used to always make things with 3-ply and 4-ply for babies, and it is so much nicer. So my first stitch I'm going to just cinch, just pull it tight, and then I'm going to go back through, and this time when it's a nice small loop, I'm going to go through, I'll pull it tight. And now all I need to do is to feed this back through all of this first round of stitches. Just bury it, and you can go back and forth if you want, or just go round. It won't come out again. It's once it's in there, it's very well and truly buried. Now that should be done. Move this over here, turn our beanie in the right way, and there it is. Cute. I've got a pair now. So yeah, same size. I've measured them. It's all the same. So hope you enjoyed that. And if you have different yarn, just a little word on sizing. If your yarn is different, you could always do another round. If it wasn't long enough this way, you could always do another round of half trebles in the UK, half doubles in the US, or you know, just maybe use a DK weight yarn. But I like to keep it nice and soft. These are very, very lovely soft yarns, these Peter Pans. I will, as I say, in the description box, link all the products I've used. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys on the next one. Bye bye for now.